This year has seen big video game releases so far, with more to come, like Princess Peach Showtime or Hellblade 2. So it got me thinking, why don't we play some Monsters Inc. games? Disney Pixar's Monsters Inc. had various video games, a Game Boy Color, a GBA, PS2, and a GameCube game. There was some PC games and even smaller games like a Leapfrog or educational ones, but we're mainly going to focus on those console releases. But just for you, I got 3 of those PC games right here. And as a bonus, if you collect all 3, you unlock a 4th bonus game. Now let's start with that Game Boy Color one, huh? Monsters Inc. for the Game Boy Color. Yeah, here we... it's just a default licensed video game from the 2000s, huh? Well, it does have some fun aspects. I do like climbing with Sully. That's like his superpower in the game. I guess they saw the scene where he was holding himself up by his arms and thought, that's a superpower. And for Mike, he can basically float a little bit, so I guess they saw that scene where he went flying. The game was released on the GBA and the PS2. Ironically, the PS2 version was received the worst by critics, and the Game Boy Color version earned the highest praise. But the scores weren't that impressive, with gamer rankings giving the Color a 64 out of 100 and the PS2 a 54 out of 100. Playing all 3 games, I can see why the Game Boy Color version had the highest score. On the Color, it's a 2D platformer where you play the events of the movies, avoiding obstacles and climbing onto things. The game doesn't look too bad for being on the Color. The controls are a bit clunky, and you can switch between Sully and Mike, which is cool, because I want to play as... The GBA version is the exact same concept, but it's more of a 2D isometric view. You can go forward and backwards. Wow. There's doors you can enter, and there's a map layout. You can scream with Sully to attack, and even use one of those energy canisters to attack the enemies. The graphics are pretty clean for the Game Boy Advance. Everything is colorful and detailed. The same can't be said about the PS2 version though. On the PS2, the game is a 3D platformer, and you think this would be the best game because it's a full console version. But honestly, it's not that good. It's kind of glitchy too. The graphics are kinda meh, but this game came out in 2001, so I can't be too harsh. It does have some cutscenes similar to the movies. And the first level in the game has these really loud alarm noises that are really loud in the default sound settings. There we go, that's better. I would also get stuck sometimes, like here. I couldn't get out of this glitch here. There we go. Of the 3, I do think I like the Game Boy Color version. It's better than the other 2, but that's just my opinion. It's simpler, and I like the gameplay and items. Sully here just throws a teddy bear, and the monsters freak out. You see, the monsters in Monsters Inc. think they're like dogs. They're not scared of things, but in reality, they're more like cats. See what I mean? Mike in the game throws projectiles that you collect in the levels, and the game follows the events of the movies, and you gotta bring Boo back to her door. It can be repetitive at times, but it's still a little bit fun to play the first time around, and the simplicity makes it easier to see past the flaws. Plus, I can't get over the teddy bear weapon. I mean, come on, who's gonna get scared when someone throws a Monsters Inc. Arena. This game takes a different approach here on the GameCube. Instead of playing out the events from the movie, how about we just play some dodgeball, huh? It does have multiplayer, so it has that going for it. The single player mode has you complete 5 stages in each level, and the game has different modes too. Regular, whoever gets hit the most kind of dodgeball. They have tag, games where you have to hold a glowing ball the most, or the last person standing. The best part of the game was probably getting a few friends together and play some dodgeball. The game seems more like a mini-game from like a Mario Party made into a full game, and there's not much else to the game. Sure, there's different modes, but they should have gone for like a tournament mode or boss battles, and it did have poor reviews at release, with Metacritic giving a 39 out of 100. One game that received better reviews was Monsters Inc. Scream Team on the PS1. This game is probably the best one of all of these games. It has an original story, and instead of playing the movie event, you do the training to be a scarer. It's a 3D platformer like that PS2 one, but now it's more level based. There's a hub world where you can decide what level to play after you finish the tutorial. Every level has these robots you have to scare, and to scare them, you have to fill up your meter here, and some robots require more than others. We play this minigame and it's pretty fun seeing their scare moves. The levels are short and the different locations make it interesting. You can also play as Mike Wazowski. And the only problem are the controls and the camera, but that's just shortcomings of the era. I see why the game received fair reviews, and it has cutscenes you unlock by collecting medals. Now let's move on to the PC CD-ROM games. Specifically, these 3. Released in 2002 by On the game cases, of course, it states that if you collect all 3, you unlock a 4th game. So now I just have to turn on the computer and get playing. Oh yeah, I forgot. Well, time for a virtual PC. The game recommends Windows 95, 98, or ME. So I'm sure Windows XP... Oh, okay, Windows... Well, after trying to get a virtual computer to work, I was able to play the game on an old laptop, so I should have tried that first. Anyways, the first game, 8 Ball Chaos, is a pool ball game. Get the ball in the, pockets? Since these are CD-ROM games, unfortunately there's not much information online about these, and I can't be too harsh on them, but they're nothing really that special. The games are short, and it feels like those Flash games from back in the day. Maybe something that came in a cereal box. Maybe Bowling for Screams will be better. As you probably guessed it, it's a bowling game. I think this game is better than 8 Ball Chaos. You actually control the ball and try to avoid obstacles and collect items before you hit down the pins. I don't think I've ever played a bowling game where I directly control the bowling ball and the main game is played on the bowling lane before I get to hit the pins. Maybe I just like bowling more than pool table? Hold on a second. My lights are flickering. Of course, my power is running low a little bit. Give me 1 second. There we go. But what about the monster tag game? This one's the worst one. You use 2 monsters on a seesaw to collect items. They should have named this one Seesaw Lunch. The detection in the game is a bit off, and sometimes you fail to catch them, even though it looked like the seesaw was in the right place here. Well, I got all 3 games. Where's a bonus game, huh? Monster Mania. Now this is where all the budget went. I can use all the directions. You basically have to scare the kids in the bedrooms and the open windows where the lights are off. You can climb up these ladders, scare these dogs walking around. Not the babies though, you have to jump over those. Every level gives you a number of scares you have to perform and a time limit. This one's more complex than the other ones, but it's not that fun. It would have fit perfectly like CartoonNetwork.com or Disney.com Flash games we all used to play back in the day online. I don't know how much you're going to go back to and play these though. There hasn't been a full dedicated video game to Monsters Inc. in a long time, and nowadays if you want to play a video game with Monsters Inc., they appear in Disney's Dreamlight or in a mobile game. The best one of all these games for me was Scream Team. I liked the concept, and it was different enough from the movies and had its own identity. Scream Arena could have been a fun party game if it offered more, and the Game Boy ports were decent enough to have some fun. Maybe we'll see another game one day in the series, and power's low again, huh? Alright, what if I try laughing this time? They say laughing's 10 times stronger than Scream. What am I gonna laugh about? I don't know any jokes or anything. Oh, wait a minute. Imagine buying 3 of these CD-ROM games to get the 4th one. Imagine buying 3 of them just to get the 4th. Who would do that?